All right, so it's official. Kyrie Irving has officially been traded to the Dallas Mavericks. We saw the first reports of the deal Sunday afternoon from Shams and Woj on Twitter. And then today on Monday, Woj and Shams were kind of like, well, hold on, the deal isn't finalized. The Nets are trying to see if they can involve a third team. There were some talks of trying to also move some pieces to make a deal with Toronto. That didn't happen, so we just got a straight up deal. Kyrie is a Dallas Maverick. Let's get into it. Also, if you want to know why Kyrie asked for a trade or not sure like the history and the background of the situation, I just made a video about that the other day. I'm gonna leave the link right up here somewhere. I'm not gonna go into that here, but go watch that. Okay, so the trade was Brooklyn received Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, the 2027 second round pick, a 2029 first round pick, unprotected, which is huge. We'll talk about that in a second. And the 2029 second round pick. And Dallas receives, at first I thought it was just going to be Kyrie Irving, but they also got Markieff Morris back in the deal as well. Markieff Morris hasn't been like anything insane for the Nets this year so far, but in theory, he's a guy who can kind of hit a three ball and be like a scrappy defender. It might do some good for the Dallas Mavericks considering they gave up Dorian Finney-Smith, who was one of their point of attack defenders, but we'll get into the weed of things in a second. I guess I want to get into the Mavericks side of things first. I think that's the bigger half of this trade, Kyrie being added to a team. For the past couple of weeks, months, heck, low-key all season, even going back into the summer, I was seeing people talking about it online. A lot of y'all in my comments on the Discord, everybody kept telling me, Hawk, the Mavericks need to do something to convince Luka to stay, to show Luka that we one, believe in you, and two, that we can put a team that can at least contend for a championship around. I personally was saying, like, I felt like they had some time still. Luka was still crazy young. He still has years on this deal. But the way the NBA moves nowadays, superstars are demanding trades younger and younger. So I'm not mad at the Mavericks just saying, you know what, Luka, we realize you're a generational, once-in-a-lifetime talent. Let's put a team around you that can try to win a championship, or at least in their mind, and I guess hopes, contend to win a championship. And the reason I say this has to be in their minds a championship caliber move is because they gave up that 2029 first round pick. Luka Doncic is currently in the first year of his 5-year extension, but even if he takes the player option at the end of that extension, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. Kyrie Irving right now is technically an unrestricted free agent this summer. The Dallas Mavericks have already come out and said they're going to see how this works, and if they like what they see and if it works for both sides, they'll sign him to a contract. And the type of contract Kyrie wants is like a $200 million, but only for 4 years, also would be a free agent in 2027. So even if things do happen to go well right now, and Kyrie does re-sign with you guys, and you live out these next 4 years, both of those guys could be free agents and long gone by 2029, which is crazy to think about, mortgaging a future that far away. But I like it a lot because if you want to win a championship at the end of the day, you got to be willing to take some risk, and this is a risk. Talking about the on-court stuff here, so many people were apprehensive of this trade or wondering how is it exactly going to work. Kyrie and Luka are admittedly both ball-dominant players. They're guys who are used to having the ball in their hands. They create for others. They create for themselves. But the reason I think it'll at least work offensively is because both of them have been put in situations where they've played with other ball-dominant players. I put that in quotation marks for a reason. Just last year in the playoffs, we saw Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic thrive playing together. Jalen Brunson turned into this whole second gear once the playoffs hit and played at a level we did not see him at all season long. Kyrie Irving, we've seen win a championship alongside LeBron James, one of the most ball dominant, if you will, guys in the league, or not necessarily even in a bad way for him or Luka, just guys who are used to having the ball in their hands, and it's better for the team if they have the ball in their hands because they're great facilitators. So not only are both of these guys used to playing with other ball dominant players, we've been saying all season long that what the Mavericks need is honestly another ball handler that can create his own shot and create a little bit for others, but they needed someone who can take the ball out of Luka's hands from time to time, especially when Luka goes to that bench. The Mavericks offense low-key falls apart when Luka's not on the floor, and that's because they were missing what Jalen Brunson brought to them last year, and now they have Kyrie Irving. It's not a one-to-one direct comparison, but I did think it was interesting because a lot of people were talking about usage rates of Kyrie and Luka and then how that was going to work pairing up. So I said, well, let's take a look at Jalen Brunson's usage rating during the playoffs last year, where he took that next step that we all acknowledge. Last year during the playoffs, Jalen Brunson had a usage percentage of 27.4%, and Kyrie currently this year is at 29.4%. So yes, Kyrie's is technically a little higher, but the point here is they're definitely comparable. I really do think, at least offensively, this is going to work for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the reason I say offensively is because defensively, they are going to miss the impact of Dorian Finney-Smith. He was their point of attack defender. They already weren't really an amazing team defensively, but he was their go-to guy to defend people on the perimeter, and especially if defend wings on the perimeter. Now, a backcourt of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic is just going to get killed in pick and rolls. I'm very curious to see what they do to try to mitigate some of that. Honestly, I don't think the Dallas Mavericks are done making moves. I think they could try to make a couple of small fringe moves here and there before the deadline on Thursday to try to get some more defense on their team. I'm Curious to see if maybe they decide to put Christian Wood into the starting lineup to add some more versatility defensively, because he has been at least okay and solid defensively this season. Offensively, this team's gonna be nice. Defensively, it leaves a lot to be desired. Thinking about Brooklyn in this situation, I was very curious, and I mentioned it in that video I dropped when the trade demand was first made. What direction they were going to go in was going to drastically change what type of trade they got back. And at least so far, it looks like they're going in the direction of, we still want to try to win games. We still want to try to contend for a championship. So let's get back players that are going to complement KD. And I think they did a good job of that. I know some other teams are salty that they didn't end up getting Kyrie. I'm looking at you, Lakers fans. And I've seen a lot of people talk about how there were other better trades out there for the Nets to choose from. But for me, considering the Nets are clearly going in the direction of we still want to win games, we still want to try to win a championship, this was the best trade package. Because when you look at the Lakers package, yes, those 2 draft picks are amazing if you're a team that decides to just blow it up and tank. But if you're trying to move forward, Russell Westbrook doesn't really help them move forward and continue to try to contend for a championship. I really do like the addition of Spencer Dinwiddie. 1, he's already been in Brooklyn. He's familiar with the city. The fans already like him. But 2, he's a guy who, to a much lesser extent, don't get me wrong, can kind of do some of the things Kyrie was doing for Brooklyn. He's a 40% three-point shooter on 6 attempts a game, and he can, from time to time, put the ball on the floor, create his own shot, create shots for others. Once again, not to the extent that Kyrie was, but he still has that ability. Dorian Finney-Smith, all the great things we just talked about him for the Dallas Mavericks, he'll be able to add some defense to this Nets team that, if we're being honest with ourselves, we're playing actually pretty good defense a couple of weeks ago. If he can just be added to this defensive machine, if you will, I think this is going to help them out a lot. And he shoots 35% from 3 on 5 attempts. The 2 biggest things for me at this point is, 1, how fast is Kevin Durant coming back from injury? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's going to ask for a trade. If he was, we would have heard about it the same moment Kyrie asked for his trade. Or at least once we heard that the Dallas Mavericks deal was finalized, I feel like we would have heard KD ask for a trade. Now, we could wake up tomorrow and I could be completely wrong, but I just don't feel like, if I'm Kevin Durant, if I ask for a trade on Tuesday, I don't see a world where something happens by Thursday. As of right now, I'm still not exactly sure what the timeline is on KD's return. For the most I can find out, the Nets announced last week that he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So sometime next week, he's going to be reevaluated, and I guess we're going to get an update from there. But the other big piece for the Nets, unfortunately, lies on the shoulders of Ben Simmons. When Ben Simmons got traded to the Brooklyn Nets, we said, in theory, this should fit like a glove. His skill set and the way he had played in Philly for most of his career fits perfectly for what the Nets need. Then we said it in the summer. Once again, if he shows up and plays basketball to what we think he can do, this would fit perfectly. Now, we haven't necessarily seen that from Ben yet. There were talks a couple of months ago, is he injured again? I want to say I just saw him get his MRI come back clear like last week, so it's not necessarily injury. I don't know if it's a mental thing, but Ben Simmons hasn't been playing like Ben Simmons. Don't get me wrong, there are times and days when he does, like you might watch a half of basketball and he has 10 assists in the first half, and somehow he ends that game with those 10 assists. Or he ends a whole half without taking a field goal. There are moments when he looks good, and there are moments when it's just like, yo, what are you doing? If we can stop the yo, what are you doing moments and just have good moments. I'm not saying this Nets team is a title lock or anything like that. I think they're going to have a rough road to the finals if they do eventually get there. But I do think they have a shot. I think this roster is solid. I like that they still kept a lot of shooting around them, and I think they still can be at least okay defensively with the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith. We love what Claxton's been doing. He's slowly sneaking into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. The team still has a solid foundation. Are they going to miss Kyrie Irving? Yeah, they are. But if they play good team basketball, I mean, this could be an opportunity for Kevin Durant to show that what he can do with a team by himself. But overall, for both sides, honestly, I really like this trade a lot. The Nets were put in a situation where they had to deal one of their best players, and they made the best opportunity out of it. And the Mavericks got a 3-month run with one of the best guards in the league. We still got a couple more days to the deadline, so let me know down in the comments what other trades you hope your team makes. I'm still hearing talks about the Raptors. I'm still waiting to see if John Collins finally gets moved. Low-key trying to see if the Miami Heat do something as well. And like I said earlier, I think the Mavs are still going to make another move. So let me know what trade you want to see down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this Mavericks Nets trade. Do you think it's crazy? Do you think he should have went to the Lakers? And you already know the deal. If you made it this far, you're a real one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.